People don't fail because of lack of discipline. They fail because they rely on discipline instead of systems. Your results come from what you do on the random Tuesday when you're tired and when you're not motivated. Not when you're motivated on the 1st of January and when you've got all these big goals. The people that are most successful is people that actually have got the right system. And I wanted to get back in the gym, and it was hard to get motivated back into it. So I packed my gym gear while I was motivated, not waiting till when I wanted to go to the gym. So where does goal setting come in this? Goal setting is very important because it gives your mind somewhere to aim for. Now, in today's world, we have got so much stuff going on in our days. And what's happening is, okay, hello and welcome to our first session live podcast of 2026. Tonight, we're going to be talking about goals. If your goal doesn't offend your calendar or doesn't scare you a little, it's not a goal, it's a preference. So a real goal forces a different version of you. A real goal isn't motivation, it's more mechanics. So who's ready to make 2026 the best year of their life? Type in me in the chat. Now, I've been working on something very special over the holidays. And basically, I created the personalized goal setting ChatGPT, a life operating system that turns your goals into systems. And I'm giving it away for free tonight. If you want it, type in the chat, make 2026 count, and my team will send you a copy. So who sets goals every year? Type in the chat. Who writes them down? And who does SMART goals? SMART, which means specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and timed. Let's have a look at 26 here. Yes. Good. Excellent. Obviously, a lot of people in our group do that because they've been doing goal setting with me. And, I love goal setting. I do it every year. And the more times we do it, the better, which is important. And tonight, what we're doing is the part most people skip, which is called goal getting, because your results come from what you do on the random Tuesday when you're tired and when you're not motivated. Not when you're motivated on the 1st of January and when you've got all these big goals. Now, just quickly before we start, just a personal announcement is Christine and I have been working on our own little goals over the last couple of years. So I just wanted to make this announcement. Actually, I'll play the video. Kim, can you play the video with sound?
Today, egg collection.
So the quick personal thing I wanted to say is Christine and I are expecting to have a baby in May, which is pretty exciting. And it's the perfect example of tonight's lesson. When identity changes, systems have to change. And I suppose, I had the identity of not being a parent, and I suppose now I've got the new identity. So having a new identity helps you become who you want to become. Because motivation is unreliable. And if your plan depends on feeling good, it will fail the first time. People don't fail because of lack of discipline. They fail because they rely on discipline instead of systems, right? Drop in the chat, how reliable is your motivation? Thank you guys, thank you so much. Not at all, not exactly. Motivation is not reliable. And the thing is, when it comes to success, it's not the people that are the most motivated that are successful, right? That's just not the way it works. The people that are most successful is people that actually have got the right systems, because you don't rise up to your goals, you fall down to your systems. What does that mean? Let me explain. I had a friend who decided he wanted to become a runner and he really wanted to get fit. And he was living in Sydney. And what would happen is sometimes it would rain and he'd go, oh, well, I can't run, it's raining. Another time, he'd be stressed out from work and he had all these excuses to not run. And what happened? He didn't run a lot. So then the year after, he had a coach. And the coach sat him down and said, the best way to become a really good runner is to get rid of the excuses before they happen. Because once they happen, you're sort of like, oh, it's raining, maybe I shouldn't do it. So basically, he had a rule. The rule was, it doesn't matter if it's raining, it doesn't matter if I don't feel like it, it doesn't matter if I've had a hard day at work, and on and on. He had all these rules. Regardless of all that, I'm going to run anyway. And guess what happened? He did it. And I'll give you an example. When I wanted to get back to the gym, I hurt my neck about 3 or 4 years ago, and I hadn't worked out for a long time, and I wasn't as motivated as I used to be. And I wanted to get back in the gym, and it was hard to get motivated back into it. And a lot of times it is hard. And so what I did is I actually had all my stuff ready and packed. So I packed my gym gear while I was motivated, not waiting till when I wanted to go to the gym. And even if I didn't feel like it, what I did is I decided I'm going to go to the gym anyway, even if I don't feel like it, and just sit in the gym and maybe ride a bike for 5 minutes. And what happens is you go to the gym anyway, you're there, and even if you don't feel like it, you ride a bike for 5 minutes, and before you know it, you're doing a full workout and you've done it. And that helps as well. So where does goal setting come in this? Well, goal setting is very important because what we need to do is goal setting is very important because it gives your mind somewhere to aim for. And it's really, really important. Who's heard of the thing called a RAT? It's called the reticular activating system. Anyone heard of that? Type in the chat. It's a bit like this. When you buy a car, let's say you buy a red BMW, what happens? What do you notice? You notice red BMWs everywhere, right? And what that is the reticular activating system, because there's so much things going on. You don't notice a lot of things, but what you notice is something that's pertaining to you. If you're in a room, there's a lot of noise, and a lot of times, you can't really hear what's going on. And then what happens is someone mentions your name, and suddenly you hear your name across the room straight away. Why? Reticular activating system. So what happens is, if you write down your goals and you really, what I did when I first started doing goals, I would read them out every day to really get clear and get my mind thinking about it. Because the most powerful part of your mind is not your conscious mind, because your conscious mind is less than 10%. 90% of your mind is your unconscious mind. And this is the thing. Your unconscious has been recording your whole life from when you were born until now. So imagine how much information your unconscious mind has got. It's recorded all that and it's storing it all. Except you don't have access to it because it's in your unconscious memory. Now, if I set a goal, then suddenly your brain is going to start thinking of things that it knows to help you get there. It will notice conversations. It will notice ads, notice things in the world, and actually assist you. It's a bit like when you've got a really difficult problem and you're trying all day to do it. Who's experienced this before? And then you sleep on it and you wake up and you know the solution. Has that ever happened to anyone? I know it's happened to me. Yes, when you sleep on it. And what happens is you're sleeping on it and your unconscious mind while you're sleeping is thinking of everything you know and working it out for you. So now in today's world, we have got so much stuff going on in our days. And what's happening is you're getting bombarded with social media, reels, news, hearing about, Trump invading Venezuela and kidnapping their president, all that sort of stuff, right? And our focus is the hardest ever in our lives, in history, to keep your focus. Now, if you don't set your own goals, you're going to end up focusing on the wrong stuff that media tells you to focus to, or the people around you do. But if you've got your goals set, then suddenly you can get through all the noise and you can actually start focusing on what's important for you. That's why it's important. So goal setting is important. And what I've done is I've set up a ChatGPT that you can talk to, and what it will do is actually go through your goals, turn them actionable, do check-ins with you, and do everything for you. I'm curious in the group, who's tested out my ChatGPT goal setting life thing here in the group? Type in the chat if you have. I'd love to get feedback on how I can improve it. I've worked on it over the holidays and I really want to nail it and get it down pat for you. And if there's anything that I'd be curious to see how people go with it, because if it doesn't work perfectly for you, I'm going to work on it, because this is the 5th sort of generation. I've been working on it the last few weeks. How do you get it? We'll put it right here in the group. So let's talk about becoming the person you want to become. Let's talk about creating systems that make it easy. Let's say you want to lose weight. One thing is you set a goal, so that way you're focused on that. The other thing is, when you've got the motivation, when you're motivated, and not when you're hungry, you can go shopping and make sure you get the right foods. Then you go through your pantry and get rid of all the junk food. So when you're feeling weak, you go to your fridge or your pantry and there's nothing there. Because you've got to make it easy for yourself. Because the key to getting your goals is actually paving the way when you've got the discipline to make it easy for you. Where do you want us to report the feedback? What I'll do is I'll get Kim to set up a separate WhatsApp chat in the group called Life Planner 2026, and I'll get the feedback in there. And what I'll do is I'll get the feedback and I'm going to get in there and work on it and improve it, because that'd be good. Excellent. So if you want to cut down drinking, well, don't hang out with your drinking mates all the time. A little bit less, or come a little bit later, drink some waters, that sort of stuff. So that's what it's about. So really, at the end of the day, what you want to do is get your identity, create your identity. So you want to finish this chat. I'm the kind of person who, that's your identity, right? So what I've been doing is, I'll go through some of my goals this year if you want to hear them. So one of my goals this year is I want to increase my HRV, heart rate variability, and my VO2 max. And one thing I've been avoiding is zone 2 exercise, because I find it very boring. Zone 2 is you've got to do like 150 minutes to 200 minutes a week. And it's going at, 110 to 130 rate heart rate. And you've got to do it for like, 25, 30 minutes at a time to 50 minutes at a time. I find it very boring. I love working out. I like doing HIIT. I love doing all sorts of stuff, but I find zone 2 boring. But unfortunately, zone 2 is the key to building an aerobic base and having high VO2 and a good HRV. So this year, I am the person that enjoys zone 2, and I'm just going to do it and just listen to podcasts and get it done. And what I'm doing is getting a treadmill, because a treadmill is going to make it easy. Then I've got no excuses to keep doing it here. Yeah, so that's why we don't want to just wait for motivation. We want to create that whole thing, the whole ecosystem of making it easy for us. So the identity shift is important. A bit like the rain, you're running whether it's raining or not. That's the rule. And that was very, very important. Creating the right environment is important. And that's basically it. So Kimberly, if you want to share the PowerPoint, I'm going to go through some of the things that's happening next year in regards to interest rates. So this is fascinating. State of the nation. Let's talk about state of the nation. So interest rate hikes. Basically, the headline CPI was a flat 0%. This is good news, because there were some rumours last year that interest rates might actually have to go up because inflation was so high. Good news is it's not, and looks like 2026 there'll be no interest rate hikes, which is awesome news, because we had those drops and now we can actually lock them in, and it's going to really help with borrowing, which is great. Now electricity prices are rising again as rebates unwind. So you can see here Westpac forecast, and then with rebates and then without rebates. So you can see inflation, the domestic price pressure versus trim mean inflation has gone down. Can we build enough homes? Official projections show housing demand continue to exceed supply until 2028, 2029. So it means the shortage is going to keep growing. If you look here, National Housing Supply and Affordability Council projections, net new supply is the green part, net new demand is the red, and net yearly balance is the black. So the black is the difference. So you can see 23-24, there was 86,000. You can see 24-25, we're catching up, and we're slowly catching up. And you look at 28-29, according to these projections, is that by 28-29, we're almost got enough properties for demand. So what does that mean? There's still going to be a shortage for another 4 or 5 years. So the Australian property has been heavily supported by government and central bank policy since the pandemic. This is the rocket under Aussie property that people forget about. $188 billion in ultra-cheap RBA funding to banks at just 0.1%, which enabled 3-year fixed mortgages below 2% at the peak in 2022. Now, the RBA cutting the cash rate down to 0.10, the Morrison government expanding the 5% body scheme, the launch of the Home Builder Grant, the Albanese government further expanding the Home Grant scheme, and the record migration levels still well above pre-pandemic norms. So these together, these measures show the Australian property as being one of the most heavily protected asset classes in the world. And this is the thing, look at this. I warned this was going to happen. So you look at this graph, basically the lower price homes have outperformed since the expansion of the 5% deposit scheme, as I said was going to happen. And now the extra borrowing power is finished because property prices have gone up to balance it out. So the whole 5% scheme, all it did is put property prices up and didn't really help except for the people that got in really quick, as I said. The people with the 5% scheme, they had to get in really friggin' quick to be able to take advantage of it, and now it's going to become harder for them. So they spent $20 billion supporting first home buyers over the past decade, right? So literally, this is what the Australian government has done. They have gotten $20.5 billion and injected it straight into the property market via first homeowners. That's what they've done. And what's happened is whenever these schemes come available, the people that first take advantage, they actually do well. But then as people come into the market, they're just paying extra money and they're not really helping them. So if you look at this, the stamp duty concessions is the red, and then the first homeowners grant is the grey, and then you've got the home builder, the new build one, that's now gone through. And as you can see, the subsidies, 2012, and as it goes up, look at 2021, they've doubled the amount of money they're putting in. So looks like here, that looks like nearly $5 billion in 2021. Despite repeated demand stimulus, housing supply remains constrained. Dwellings of approvals are still well below what is needed to meet population growth, and the gap between approvals and construction remains high. Now, if you have a look at here, the Housing Accord target is that green line there, and the underlying demand 5-year average is the black line, and the dwelling approvals is the red. And as you can see, dwelling approvals are catching up. But if you look at the House Accord, it's miles away. What is the Accord target? The Accord target is the Albanese government, they wanted to build a certain amount of homes over 5 years. It was like 200,000 properties per year for 5 years. That was the Accord. They never got there. They never got even close. Okay, Australian advertised rents. This is the sad fact, is the extremely tight rental market is going to persist. Good for investors, bad for people that are renting. The past 5 years have been brutal for Australian renters. The Australian renters have to pay an extra $10,000 a year renting the median home now than what it's 5 years ago. That's a lot of money if you're on an average wage, because median rents have jumped 44% in 5 years. And Australia's percent of income required to rent is 33%. Now, this figure is important. I'll tell you why. The reason this figure is important is because normally when you're looking for a rental, property managers won't give you rental if it's more than 30% of your income. And now that's the average. So it's become harder for people. Rental growth picked up again in 2025, Advertised rents rose 5.2%, up from 4.8%. Vacancy rate edged slightly to 1.6%. 1.6% vacancy rate is a lot healthier than what it used to be, which is great, which means there's a little more people that are vacant. And annual change in Australian dwelling stock, as you can see, it's been finally going up in 2025, but only a little bit. And you can see the peaks of 2020 and the peak there of 2015, we're not even close to that, but we're getting closer, we're getting better. So basically, immigration is still historically high, housing supply is constrained, Australia's rental market is likely to remain very tight for 2026, and it's going to remain tight, I'm guessing, 2028, 2029, maybe up to 33. So we've still got maybe 2033 where it's going to loosen up again, roughly, there 2030, 2033. Okay, excellent. Now let's go through some wins and then we're going to go through this. Okay, let's have a look. Lindsay and Kylie, we've got two people here. Oh, okay, two separate people. They're not together, but they both got the same property deal. So settled in 2024, price was 482,000, deposit 48 grand, currently valued at 701,000, current profit 220,000, return on investment 452%. Nice work. Caboolture, we got Michael, we got Todd, we got Dave. Settled in 2024, they paid 482, current value 701, current profit 220, 454%. Stuart and Jody, they made the same money. Andrew and Nicole, Brock, Paul, Dora, well done. That's what it is. So the system I'm giving away, people on Facebook, if you want the system, make 2026 count. Thank you everyone for joining us. We're going to go in our private group and go a little bit deeper.